Ray Dalio is one of the best investors of all time. The guy's worth $19.1 billion as of 2023, and almost 50 years ago, back in 1975, he started Bridgewater Associates, which is now one of the best, if not the best, hedge funds of all time. So needless to say, the guy kind of knows what he's doing, and in this video, we're going to break down his top 10 stock market holdings as of 2023. So if you guys find value, hit that like button, subscribe, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and let's dive right into the video. And by the way, if you guys haven't taken a sip of your coffee yet, take a sip of your coffee. You're going to need it for this video because Ray Dalio, the guy's on the Mount Rushmore of investors. We got to break down what he's holding right now. So let's just dive into it with stock number one, which is Procter & Gamble. He owns $835 million of Procter & Gamble. It's roughly 4.2% of his portfolio. And well, based on the last 13F filing, he has actually sold off a little bit of the position, roughly 131,000 shares. And you guys can see everything here up top. We have the stock, the sector, the shares held of principal amount, market value, percentage of portfolio, and the list goes on. So make sure you guys pay attention as we go through the top 10. So Procter & Gamble is number one, roughly 4% of his portfolio. And I've been very critical of Procter & Gamble and a lot of these safe investments right now, the defensive consumer staples, because I think if you weren't already in them, which I'm assuming Dalio, I mean, he's been in these for a while, but if you weren't already in them, I think they're kind of overvalued right now, personally. But, you know, he still holds it as his number one position in the portfolio, and I guess he is selling a little bit, so maybe he does think it's a little bit overvalued as well. But Procter & Gamble is number one. Number two is Johnson & Johnson. Look at that. Johnson & Johnson's a healthcare company. He owns roughly $770 million of the stock and 4.7 million shares. And I forgot to mention Procter & Gamble, 6.6 million shares, and that's roughly almost 4% of the portfolio. And Dalio is actually adding Johnson & Johnson. You can see he added almost 400,000 shares as of the last 13F filing, which goes to show he's still bullish on healthcare, on J&J, and this goes to show kind of where Dalio's head's at, where he's buying, you know, where he's adding, what positions he's adding to, what he's selling out of, which again, he's adding J&J, he's selling out of Procter & Gamble, and he's also adding Pepsi, which is stock number three, PepsiCo, which he owns roughly 4 million shares of, $656 million of the portfolios in Pepsi. That is roughly 3.3% of the portfolio. And based on the last 13F, he added over 212,000 shares of Pepsi, which is a 5% change, which that's a pretty big increase. Not a huge increase to the portfolio, but he's bullish. He's still adding companies like Pepsi and Pepsi's competitor, which is Coca-Cola. Look at that. Stock number four is Coca-Cola, which he owns $640 million of, roughly 11.5 million shares, and that is roughly 3.2% of his portfolio. And just recently, guys, he added more Coca-Cola. So he's adding Coca-Cola, 640,000 shares worth. He added Pepsi, and he added Johnson & Johnson. So clearly, he's still bullish on a lot of these stocks, even though I believe some of them are frothy. I think personally, for me, for my risk tolerance where I'm at, I'd rather buy some beaten down tech stocks as opposed to Coca-Cola, Pepsi, J&J. But who am I to talk? I mean, this guy's, we're talking about Ray Dalio here. The guy's worth $19.1 billion. I'm not even worth 0.0001% of that. So, I mean, who am I to judge, right? The guy's worth $19 billion, and we're going over what he's buying, right? And we also have under that an ETF, I believe, which let me actually pull it up here so you guys can see it. It's ticker symbol IEMG. I'm not too familiar with that personally. I believe it looks like it's emerging markets. Okay, so he has emerging markets here, about $640 million worth, 14.9 million shares, roughly 3.2% of his portfolio, and he's actually selling off some of the emerging market shares here, roughly 407,000 shares sold as of the last 13F. And you guys know Dalio is one of these guys that invests throughout the globe, right? He's a very diversified guy. He likes gold, he likes metals, he likes Chinese stocks, he likes emerging markets, he pretty much likes everything. He likes to have a balanced portfolio, which I really do appreciate that, because people like Munger, for example, Charlie Munger, they're both great in their own ways, but I think, he's more own 2, 3, 4 individual stocks, great companies, and bet the farm on those, as opposed to, you know, buying a bunch of different companies diversified throughout the world, right? That's a little bit of a different approach, but to each their own. I mean, they're both billionaires. They're both obviously very, very successful in what they do, in just different ways, right? So under IEMG, the sixth biggest holding, let me show you guys right here, is IVV, which I believe is a core S&P 500. Yeah, S&P 500. It looks like he's adding to that. 60,000 shares as of the last 13F filing. He owns $630 million of that, roughly 1.8 million shares. That's roughly 2.7%, or actually a little over 3% of the portfolio. So under that S&P 500 holding, we have none other than Costco, which I love Costco, guys. That is such a great company, but for me, I just haven't been able to buy it at the price that I want to buy it. But Dalio here owns it. He owns $560 million worth, 1.19 million shares, roughly 2.9% of his portfolio, and he actually sold a little bit as of the last 13F filing. Roughly 11,500 shares have been sold of Costco. And under that, we have VWO, which is another ETF. I believe this is, let me double check here, guys. This is also an emerging markets ETF, which he actually sold a good amount of that, roughly 4%. I mean, not too much, but he sold 670,000 shares as of the last 13F. He owns now 14.7 million shares, $540 million market value, which is a lot of money, guys. And he's betting, again, on these emerging markets, even though he's selling off a little bit. It's called rebalancing, right? Trimming a little bit here, adding a little bit there. That's what these professional money managers do. That's just the reality of the matter. They're not just going to buy and hold forever and not do anything. They're going to be trimming. They're going to be selling. They're going to be adding. They're going to be locking in profits, right? So keep that in mind. And under VWO, we have the ninth holding, which is none other than Walmart. Walmart is roughly, 2.6% of the portfolio right now. You guys can see that right here. And it's roughly worth $500 million, which he has roughly 4 million shares of it, and he actually sold 14% of his Walmart. That's actually a big move right there. 14% of the Walmart position was sold. That's roughly 670,000 shares. And under that, we have the last holding here, which you guys can see. It's SPY. Well, the last of the top 10 at least, which SPY, he also sold 20% of SPY, guys. That's insane. 380,000 shares were sold of SPY. You can see that here, and it's still worth 2.6% of the portfolio, roughly 520 million, roughly 1.4 million shares held, but 20%, he's cutting 20%. That is a pretty big number there, of shares to cut. So that's the top 10, guys, and we're only about 8 minutes in here, and I'm going to edit this video down. So maybe we could talk about a couple more here, especially for those of you guys that stuck till the end. Let me know if you stuck till the end down below. And if you haven't gotten your free money yet from Moomoo or from Webull, use those links down below. Get up to 15 stocks from Moomoo, each up to $2,000, and up to 12 stocks from Webull with any amount deposited is free money, guys. Who doesn't like free money? And it also helps out the channel. Again, linked right down below. I appreciate you all as always. Under SPY, we have none other than McDonald's. You guys can see here, McDonald's right now is worth roughly they have 2 million shares, roughly $490 million worth of McDonald's. You guys can see it here right above my head. And that's roughly 2.5% of the portfolio, and they're actually adding to McDonald's. Roughly 2% change here, 42,000 shares added. Then under McDonald's, we have PDD, which is actually a Chinese company that I really can't pronounce, Pinduoduo or something like that. You guys know what I'm talking about. He owns roughly 5 million shares, $317 million worth, and he added 250,000 shares to that. And then under that one, guys, we have Abbott, ABT, which he's also been adding to. And let me see, what other positions has he been going heavy into, adding big-time shares to? If we come down here a little bit, look at this. All right, so he added Google. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. Google's one that he added a good amount to. Right here, he added roughly 480,000 shares of Google. It's now 0.7% of the portfolio. That's a big move, a big change in share ownership. That's a 50% increase in share ownership. And if we keep coming up a little bit here, this is Mondelez, right? Mondelez, however the heck you say it. Mondelez International Inc., food company, consumer staples. They added 2.3 million shares of Mondelez, guys. That is actually an insane amount. That's a 203% change. And needless to say, he's bullish MDLZ. So overall, guys, we're not going to dive too deep, obviously, into these individual holdings, and these are all through Bridgewater Associates. It's not like Ray Dalio owns these personally. They're through his his hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates, which again he started about 50 years ago, and this guy's now worth $19.1 billion. So those are the top 10 holdings right now in 2023. And remember, guys, these are subject to change. It's not like just because he holds these now, he's going to hold them forever. That's not the case. These could all potentially change in the next quarter, 2 quarters, which is why you should never blindly follow anybody, not even the super investors out there like Dalio, like Monish Pabrai, like Buffett, like Munger, like Peter Lynch. Don't just go blindly follow these guys, because at the end of the day, they're great. They're worth billions of dollars, but you do not know what they're going to be doing in the next quarter. Are they going to be buying? They're going to be selling their positions. Why are they even buying these positions in the first place? So keep that in mind, guys. Make sure to make your own financial decisions. And with that being said, I'll catch you all in the next one. Don't forget to get all your free stocks down below. Check out the Patreon as well if you guys want. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.